This is Mike Phelan with FanBolt, and today we have with us Miss Isabel Marcus, who you will recognize, well, not recognize because it's kind of our voices, so you can't really do that, but she is from This Is Us, and she's graciously agreed to talk to us today, specifically with me, which I don't know why she'd want to do that. But anyway, Miss Isabel, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Thank you for being with us. Your story is kind of unique. It's a very kind of overnight thing with a lot of hard work building up. Then out of nowhere, you're on one of the biggest shows right now. How are you taking that?
Yeah, I think it is sort of an overnight. It was, I got the audition, and within the week I was actually shooting my first episode. So it was a really fast, really big thing. But up until then, and thank you for mentioning it, my mom and I and my community had been sort of working toward this for 5 years. And so when it happened, it did feel like, oh, this crazy rush, but it also felt like this was a natural progression. This just happened to be the next step in my track. And if this was a step that would wait another couple of years, that would be okay. But being on that Paramount lot, as surreal as it felt, as insane as it felt, it also felt like exactly what was next, And I've sort of been treating it that way up until now. Because if I forget that, I've been working at it for a while, I would maybe have a heart attack because it's so cool.
Was it a little intimidating to be on that Paramount lot, that a legendary lot in itself? You're surrounded by all these great productions, and you're thinking I've got to do it. I've got to make it big. I've got to give it everything I've got. Did you have any apprehension about that?
Absolutely. I mean, yes. You drive onto the lot, and the gates are really big, mm-hmm. and the walls are really big, and I've driven by the lot multiple times, and you see these posters on the outside for all the shows they're shooting, or movies that have shot there that are coming out soon, and the posters are huge, and mostly they're these actors that are really, really well known, and they're blown up times 16. It's just everything is big, and then to drive into it is this whole other world. It feels sort of like you're entering a different space. And so it was intimidating, and it was I hadn't been on a TV shoot before. And so, I didn't know all the lingo. They said, we'll invite you to set in 5 minutes. And I was like, you're going to invite me? Do I need to RSVP? What's the protocol here? I just didn't know all of the words, and I didn't know all of the traditions. And I was by myself. My mom actually had to stay in Texas because that's where we were at the time. That's where I'm from, and we were visiting. And I had to fly out to shoot. And so I was doing this mostly by myself. And so it was this crazy new adulting experience. And it was absolutely intimidating. But everybody made me feel right at home. Everybody sort of helped me out. If I had questions, they answered them like no biggie. So the crew and the cast really was what made it not as scary as it could have been.
So there wasn't an initiation your first day. It was everyone kind of welcoming you in like a part of the family.
Yeah, right. I didn't get hazed. No, it was totally welcoming. Absolutely. And even though the scene that I was going into was a little it was deep. My first episode was just after the kids learned that Jack has passed. Mm-hmm. And Kevin's not even there. They have to find Kevin. It was a harsh scene, so I didn't get to meet everybody as much as I would have liked to because they had to stay in character and everything. But when they were able to, come out of character, they were so welcoming and so professional and so kind. And I was glad that they stayed in character because it meant, I was watching good actors do good work. it was a great experience, and I was blown away.
After that first day, you knew for sure that this is what you wanted to do for the rest of your career?
I've known that acting was my path for many, many years. And not just acting, but sort of anything within the film industry. Acting is my passion, and it's what I'm pursuing as of now. But certainly I would love to transition the way, Greta Gerwig did or whatever, to directing and producing. But it was validating for me. It did say, like, yes, this is your dream, this is what you've wanted to do, and you can. And this is what this looks like. And so I did get to learn the lingo and the tradition of it, and I learned that is something I wanted. But I've known that this is a path I wanted to follow forever. And if that takes the form of, being on This Is Us and then getting a feature film, that's great. And if it takes the form of being on This Is Us and then being on, being able to support myself doing what I do for the rest of my life, whether I get Mandy Moore level famous or just a well-known character actor or whatever, that's great. It's just my passion, and I want to keep doing it, and I want to be able to make a life of it.
Speaking of validation, I'm sure you've taken acting classes and you work to hone your craft. Has your approach to that changed now that you are on a show, or are you still going to use the same steps that you had getting up to this point?
That's a good question. It was an eye-opening experience. I got to be in a scene with Milo and Mandy, and just the way, particularly T, but both of they sort of handled themselves on set, and how much they were willing to speak out when they had an idea, or when they didn't feel quite right, or when they thought someone else might be able to use. They weren't like, hey, you should do this, but they were like, hey, like you could do this if you felt like it, that was eye-opening, because I was like, okay, that's what being a real professional actor looks like. And similarly, working with Niles Fitch, who plays Randall, and who I've worked with the most, but also Hannah and Logan, Kate and Kevin, I got the opportunity to see what being a young actor looks like on set. And they're just so sort of confident. And I've watched them grow so much over the show, to watch the show first and then to be on set with them and see where they've gotten to. I think it has opened my eyes to what being on set really, really looks like. But in terms of the process of building a character, it didn't change specifically because of this show. It's just morphed over the years from not having any process at all to, doing the research first and finding, with this character, I had such a short period of time, and now I'm rambling, that to get ready for the audition, that really what I did most was sort of understand what would have surrounded her, what music she would have been listening to, because it's set in a different time period, what movies she would have been watching. I watched Austin Powers. My dad was really proud of me. And so it just took me, I just did the research, and then I did the character building, what religious background does she come from, what social and economic background does she come from, and that's really what it was about at that time, was sort of building the research and then building the relationships to herself and to her surroundings and to the other people in the scene. And it wasn't, so that's a normal process. That's a standard process for anyone building a character. And I'm certain that I will learn to go deeper. I'm in a couple of classes right now, and I'm certain I'm going to get a lot out of them. And so but the process specifically hasn't changed because of the show. It's just always morphing. It's just always changing.
Was it a bit of a culture shock to come from Texas to being mostly now in LA? Was there a big like, wow, this is really different kind of moment for you?
Stereotypes of both cities do hold up. I'm from San Antonio, Texas. It's a bigger city in Texas. In fact, it's one of the 4 biggest cities in Texas. So it is a city, and it's got all of the qualities of a city. It's not sort of riding your horse to school kind of a Texas. But the stereotypes do hold up. We do like a lot of food, and there's the shape of Texas on like every building, and the waffles are shaped like Texas. It's true. And Los Angeles has got a lot of granola and a lot of surfers. It's absolutely they're cliches for a reason. But in terms of like the actual people, I've found that Los Angeles people are really nice and real inviting. There is something to be said for Southern hospitality and Southern charm. I think that people in Texas will go out of their way to like hold the door for you, or speak to you and tell you how they've been, or ask you how you've been. And in Los Angeles, it's sort of a unintentional, not that way. They maybe have like horse blinders on, where if you force them to see outside of their horse blinders, they're really welcoming, they're really inviting, and they're kind people. But they don't reach out initially.
They're more curt. They're kind of just very, very focused on one thing, more or less.
Yes, they're focused until you sort of like make them not be focused. I had to whip them with some Southern charm, and then they were like, "Oh, okay, I get it."
Yeah, I'm from Florida, and when I go to LA, I notice there's a big difference in the way that I act as opposed to everyone around me. It's very different, and you have to just get used to. Well, not everyone knows that Southerners are very, very welcoming people.
Yeah, and I had to train myself. A couple of months into being out here, I started not holding the door for people, and I was like, oh no, that's not good. I can't lose that. I mean, of all of the Texas things, I'm not going to lose the kindness, So, it's weird.
I think a lot of, like, when people see that, like, I'll hold the door for either a man or a woman, and sometimes they'll kind of look at you like, what are you doing? Like, just holding the door.
Yeah.
It's all right, man.
It's like, no skin off my back. I'm going to get there wherever I'm going at the same speed as everyone else. And I think that it might have something to do with the traffic in Los Angeles. People are so used to being backed up and stressing about getting there on time that they may not, feel free to, like, let someone else get there on time, too. Because then you're, like, compromising the traffic.
Well, there's no left turn lanes in all of Los Angeles, so everyone's getting stuck somewhere at some intersection.
I know. It's so true.
On This Is Us, it deals with a lot of heavy themes, and I'm sure that has a little bit of an emotional toll during the filming process. Have you had any scenes in particular where you felt completely drained by the end of the day?
You know what? I think even if I were to be shooting a 10-hour day and every take I had to cry, I don't think I would be truly, truly drained, because I get, I'm not an adrenaline junkie. I can appreciate a roller coaster, but I don't love it. But acting is where I get my adrenaline. I get such a rush from doing that. And so I think I would come off set and just feel so good. But it is true that even when I'm in the scenes that are, there's the cookie scene in episode 13 where I'm making cookies with Randall, and that was a, comparatively easy scene to shoot. I got off it and I felt so, like, alive and fulfilled and good, and then also so tired. I mean, I was so ready for sleep, and so it's this bizarre, like, adrenaline rush and then crash. It's like a sugar high smashed into the space of 30 minutes. It's an incredible feeling. So I guess every single time, and also none of the time, I've been both drained and alive. My
last question, and it's a big one. for those that are looking to get into the industry, younger people, not like myself because I'm much older, but younger people such as you, what is your wisdom to them if they're trying to get into the industry, but they live in another state, like, you know, if they live in the South like we do?
Mm-hmm.
What would be your guidance to those people that are trying to make it, but they're so remote from the hub?
You know, get to the hub, kind of. There are a couple of places that are big film places right now. If you are living in Florida and you don't want to go as far as New York or Los Angeles, Atlanta is a huge film hub right now, and Austin is a big deal, and Louisiana is coming up. And so I say drift toward the places that will be successful. And if you can get as far as Los Angeles, get as far as Los Angeles. But before you can do that, do your craft as often as possible. Look for every place you can. If it's community theater, if it's your bedroom, if it's YouTube, if your friend wants to be a filmmaker and so they'll help, you know, they'll write you a monologue and then shoot you a monologue and then you can post it on the internet, just do it. Because there's too often people are like, I want to, but I'm not where I can make it happen. And I think you can make it happen anywhere until you can get to the places that are part of the geography of success. And once you can, do it. Don't hesitate. Just go after your dreams because it's not worth waiting. And I don't think this is true for all young people. I think it's true for all people. I think if you wanted to break into, you know, stand-up comedy and New York, go to New York. Like, make it happen no matter how old or young you are. But do it and jump in, because the longer you wait, the longer it'll take to like feel totally comfortable that you are achieving what you want to.
That is perfect. Thank you very much. I appreciate your passion for it, because sometimes when I ask that question, it's just kind of like you just got to work hard. There's more to it than that.
Well, that's true. You do got to work hard.
Yeah, but there's the timing, there's the expense that goes with it. There's so many factors that go into making it in this business that just are kind of glossed over, or people just don't think of. And so I appreciate your honest answer. It's very refreshing.
I also think, and this is important to me, I was talking to a kid last night who said she wanted to go into theater, and, you know, my initial reaction is, so you might want to move to New York, and she was like, yes, New York. And I was like, have you been there? And she said she hadn't been there, and which is totally okay. Not a lot of people have been to New York. But my suggestion for anyone who wants to go into theater or film is, like, look at your options. There's obviously Los Angeles and there's obviously New York, but those may not jive with you. You may show up there and the energy of the city just isn't right. So then broaden your spectrum. Maybe you want to go to England. England has a huge theater population, and the Rose Buford School is great. Obviously, the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts. You know, if you plan to go to college for these arts, don't hesitate to go outside your box and find other places to do it. Canada has Toronto and Vancouver are great film locations. You know, there are options, and don't box yourself in because this is what you've been told is right, or this is what you've been told is the only place you can do it. Let your imagination flow and find where it truly is going to suit you.
Perfect. I mean, that I can't top that at all. That summed up everything that I needed from this interview. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Good. Thank you.
All right, Isabel. Thank you again very much for this, and we look forward to seeing more from you in the future. And where can people, for those that aren't familiar with This Is Us, where can people see it right now, either on TV or on a streaming service?
So This Is Us I think every single episode is on Hulu, and I know I sometimes have to catch up on the NBC app, and you can keep up with me on Instagram at Isabel Oliver Marcus and Twitter at Isabel O. Marcus. But This Is Us is available on Hulu and the NBC app. And don't steal it because we need our money.
All right, Isabel, thank you very much, and I hope you have a good day. And I can't say thank you enough for taking your time out of your day for this interview.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Truly, truly, truly. Have
All
a
right,
good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.